All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. So in this video, I want to talk about a bodybuilder by the name of Bill Grant. Now, Bill Grant was a bodybuilder from the golden era. He competed in the 60s, the 70s, and into the 80s. He was between 185 and 195 pounds on stage, which is between 83.9 and 88.5 kilograms. And his height was 5'9" or 175 centimeters. Now, the reason I wanted to make a video about Bill Grant is because you see his name a lot kind of featured in different books, magazines, and articles from that time period, and even some movies from around that time. You can see him maybe in the background training or just kind of involved in the sidelines of those movies or articles or whatever. So really, I don't think he got as much attention as he probably should have gotten for really the physique that he had for that time period. I think, unfortunately, the reality is a lot of the African American bodybuilders kind of get forgotten about and don't get as much recognition as some of the other bodybuilders from that era seem to get, like Arnold. You got Mike Mentor, you got Frank Zane, and people do talk about Sergio Oliva, but not nearly as much as they talk about Arnold. Larry Scott, some of these guys that came out of that era, they get talked about a lot more than some of the African American guys. And honestly, I think Bill Grant had a really amazing physique for that era. He had a really well-developed abs, which is one of the things that really stood out about him. He had a really clearly defined six-pack, even an eight-pack, you could call it. He had those lower two abs on the very bottom of his abdominal wall that some people don't even have. But he had like a perfect eight-pack. The six-pack was always definitely in there looking, very balanced. And that's something you don't really see with a lot of bodybuilders. Every bodybuilder has abs, but it's really rare that you actually see a good bodybuilder that has a nice defined, clear-cut six-pack. And in addition to that, he balanced that out with crazy conditioning, and then he still had some pretty good size to him. Like I said before, his body weight on stage was between 185 and 195 at 5'9", which for that era was pretty big. Keep in mind, guys like Frank Zane were like 175 to 185 pounds on stage, and Frank Zane was a three-time Mr. Olympia. So to be 195 pounds on stage at 5'9" in the 60s and 70s, that's a pretty big bodybuilder. So you can definitely see he had a really good chest, he had really good arms. His legs were okay, but the biggest thing that stood out to me was his well-developed abs. So the biggest title that Bill Grant won during his competitive career was he won the Mr. World competition 2 times, in 1972 and in 1974, and he also won the 1974 Mr. International title. So those were pretty big bodybuilding titles for that era, and pretty big bodybuilding titles in general. And during the span of his career, he competed in over 44 professional competitions during the time he was competing. So that's a lot of competitions. Now, in addition to those very prestigious titles, he actually had some very good Olympia placings as well. So in the 1978 Olympia, he finished 7th. In the 1977 Olympia, he finished 5th. And in the 1976 Olympia, he finished 4th. So those are very respectable Olympia placings, especially during that competitive era. And then, of course, he competed well into the 80s, his final competition being in 1988, the IFBB Night of Champions, where he placed 13th. But the main reason I wanted to make a video about Bill Grant is the fact that, number one, he's still alive today. And not only is he still alive, but he looks phenomenal. He's 61 years old, and he looks absolutely incredible. He's got a Facebook page. I think it's called Bill Grant Bodybuilding Legend official page. And you can see the photos that he's posted on there. I mean, for his age, he looks absolutely phenomenal. And he really just looks absolutely phenomenal in general. He's still jacked. He's still huge. And he's still just living life, doing his thing. And he still seems to be very active online and participative in kind of the things that are going on with bodybuilding. So he definitely seems to still be very active and maintain a presence within the industry. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned a little bit about a bodybuilder you may not have heard of before. Please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.